In this video, I'm going to be showing you how to create this really cool Bicentennial Civic Center building inside of Revit. We're going to cover the initial shape of the building and how to create that, and then we're going to go to the facade, and I'm going to be showing you how to create the complex panels that form this facade. So, let's go. Now, before we jump into Revit, I would just quickly like to ask you to check out my website, balkanarchitect.com. I'm going to link it up just below this video in the description, and then also up in the cards above. There you can find all of my Revit courses. That's where I take the extra time to go slowly, step by step, and explain all of the complex topics inside of Revit. We cover beginner, intermediate, as well as advanced level topics, so there's something there for everybody. If you're serious about learning Revit, that's definitely the place to go. Also there you can find some of my customized, ready-to-go Revit templates. You can find some really high-quality parametric Revit families, and we also have an interesting plugin which might interest you too. Okay, so now without any further ado, let's jump straight into Revit. And as you can see, here we are in Revit. I'm just at the home screen, so I'll start a new project by going here to Models, going to New. And then as soon as Revit asks me for the template, I'm going to here I'm just going to choose the architecture design template. So this is my favorite template. It's kind of nice, elegant, minimalistic. If you want to check it out, you can find it on my website. I'm just going to link that up to in the cards above. Okay, so now let's click OK, and then as soon as Revit opens up, we can start working on our building. So what I'll do here first is I'm just going to jump into one of the elevations, and then let's go and move level 2 a little bit higher. So I'm just going to move it to 1000 centimeters or 10 meters. And then I'm also going to add another level, which is going to be a bit higher than that. So I'm just going to kind of follow basically here for 2000 centimeters or 20 meters above that. So this is just going to give us some basic height for this. Obviously, I'm not following the kind of the real project dimensions. That's a little bit more complicated, but for presentation purposes, I think this will do the job. Okay, so now once we have this created, we can go to the 3D view, see what we have. There we go. And then for the starting view, I'm just going to get rid of that. Okay, so once we're here, we're obviously going to be creating this as Revit massing. So let's go here to massing inside. Then let's go here to show mass, just to make sure it's visible, and then go to in place mass. Now for the name, I'm just going to leave it as mass 1, and then what I'll do next is I'm just going to create a simple rectangle here on the bottom. So I'll just go here to rectangle and then create a rectangle. So let's make it something like 1500 by 1500. Let's see how that would work. I think that's okay, perhaps a bit smaller, so let's go with 1200 by 1200. That might be a bit too small. Let's see. Yeah, so let's try 14. So it's really kind of here I'm trying to get kind of the proportions of the building. It's not that important, but yeah, let's make it as best as we can. Okay, so once we have this one here, I'm just going to go here to copy to clipboard, go to paste, align to selected levels, and then I'll just check level 2 and level 3. Click OK, so it's just going to paste those up. Now what I'll do here is select my level 2, and then I'm just going to rotate this by, let's try 30 degrees. Let's see what that looks like. Yeah, I think this will work. Okay, so now we want to connect all of this into the building shape that we have here. So this is what I'm looking for. So I cannot select these. So if I were to select these and then go to create form, it's going to create something that looks like this. And obviously this isn't what we're looking for. So I'm just going to go back, and then what I want to do now is go here to this point element tool. Make sure that the draw on face is selected, and then you basically want to host these points in all corners of these rectangles that we have here. So just go all the way around. There we go. So once we have these points in place, now we can kind of specify and tell Revit which point we want to connect with which point on the other rectangle. So for example here, let's say I want to select this one, hold the control key, select this one, and then go to spline through points, and that will basically connect those 2 points. Now I can select this one, I'm just holding the control key to select multiple points, and then spline through points, there we go. And then I can select this one and this one, spline through points, so that's connected, and this one and this one, spline through points, and that's connected. And basically you just continue going like this. So I'm just kind of connecting these points, and as you can see, we're already starting to kind of notice the shape of the building appearing over here. Now I'm just going to fast forward because I don't want to get too repetitive with this video. Okay, and this is now what we have. So basically here we have the kind of initial shape of the building, but this is just now kind of wires. We don't really have any surfaces. So what you want to do now is when you hover over one of these lines, you can see that it's kind of trying to connect a chain of lines. So it's usually going to highlight multiple lines. So you just hover over one of them, you hit the tab key once to highlight only one line, and then you click select. You click to select. Then you hold the control key, and then you can add additional lines. Now in this case, as you can see, Revit is selecting these 2, so that's perfect. So I can just select that, and then what you want to do is go here to create form, and it's going to ask you, do you want to have kind of an extrusion form, or is it just going to be a surface? And here we're just looking for a surface, and it's going to create a surface there. Now you cannot really see it very well here, so I'm just going to switch this to shaded. So it's going to look like that, or you can go, let's see, consistent colors. Yeah, I like consistent colors. And then you just repeat the process. So for example here we have this chain, so we can just select 2 at once. Then I want this one, hold the control key, select that one, and then create form, and just select the surface. Then here I'm just going to use the tab key, hold the control, add that one. Here I'm just going to again use the tab key to highlight only this one, and then here tab key to highlight that, and then again create form and select that surface. And again, it's pretty repetitive, so I'm just going to fast forward so you don't have to kind of wait and see me click on each one. And as you can see, now we're done. We have all of the sides completed. You can do the same thing on top if you want. So you can just go here, create form, kind of cap it on top, and there we go. So this is basically how you create the shape of the building. Now it's time to, well, cover the facade. So as you can see, the facade is really complicated, and it actually took me a while to just figure out what's going on here. So if can I zoom in? Okay, perfect. So first I thought I can use just rhomboid shapes, because here you can see we have rhomboid shapes, but then here in some cases they're flipped, and it's like a hexagon that's kind of turned into 3 rhomboid kind of shapes that fit together. So somewhere it's a hexagon, somewhere they are just these rhomboid shapes, so it's actually really difficult to do in Revit. And if I were creating this facade kind of in real life, and if I were working on a project, I would probably have to do this manually if I want these exact shapes. But what I'll do in this video is I'll show you how to get as close as possible to this shape. So I'm actually going to be going with this hexagon shape and just show you how you can create this shape that repeats all over, and then how you can create all of these openings. Okay, so what we'll do for that is we want to select one of these surfaces. So you hover over it, you select just the surface itself, and then what you want to do is go here to divide surface. So it's just going to divide it into rectangles like this. That's basically no pattern, and no pattern looks like hexagons, so that's Revit. And then you just want to scroll down, and here you can see this is the zigzag. So this is if you just wanted rhomboids. I just want to do it a little bit more complicated just to show you kind of how to do the more complicated approach, and that's this with hexagons. So basically it's just going to divide it into hexagons. I want more of them, so I think if I go 20 here, and then 30 here for the layout, and then hit apply. Yeah, that's going to give me something close enough. So let's try 32. Let's try 35 here. So I'm trying to get as close as possible to kind of like a perfect hexagon shape. Let's now switch this to shaded. No. Consistent colors, yeah. So sometimes it goes with this kind of dark pattern, which I don't like, kind of gradient, but that's okay. So anyways, so this is the pattern that we have, and now we want to apply a shape to this pattern. So what I'm going to do for that is basically I'm just going to go here to File, go to New, and then let's go to Family. And then for the template file for the family, you want to go with the metric curtain panel pattern based. Then you just go with Open, and that's going to open up that new pattern. Now here, if you select, so you can see we have this grid, and if you try to select it here, it's not kind of, you cannot select it. But if you try to select it from the sides, so from the edges, then you can select it. And here you can choose your pattern. So here, if you were working with zigzag, you would go with this one. This is a hexagon, so I'm just going to select the hexagon and go with that. So basically, we're trying to create this pattern here. So somewhere you have kind of a full facade, and somewhere you have these patterns. So what I would do first is just select this, go here to create form, and then just create kind of the basic form that's kind of a full panel. And then for the positive offset, I would go with 50 millimeters, so that's 5 centimeters in real life. Now here, this is really big. This is like 3 by 3 meters, so that's why this is so this looks so thin. But when we load it into the project, because the pattern is going to be smaller, it's going to look a lot better. Or basically here, if I just select this and go 1500 by 1500, you'll see now this looks a lot thicker in that scale. So anyways, now it's time to save this. So I'm just going to go here to save, and then I'm just going to save it on my desktop and call this my new panel 1. Okay. So we have this new panel 1 family, so let's load it into the project, and that's actually a terrible name, so kind of try to figure out a better name. But anyways, while we're here in the project, I can go to the 3D view, I can select this pattern now, and here you'll notice we have that new panel 1. And when we apply that, now we have the full panel. Now we actually want to see the panels with the openings too, so let's now create those. So for those, what you want to do here is we can actually get rid of this family. We don't need it anymore. We want to go again to File, New, Family, and then just repeat the same process. So curtain panel pattern based, Open, and then set that to a hexagon pattern here. So just hexagon, okay. And once we have this, now what you want to do is you want to select these 2 points. When you select them, you want to go to spline through points, so it's actually going to connect them, and then you can turn on a reference option here. So this is just going to be a reference line that's connecting them. Then you want to go here to the point element, and you want to host that, so make sure that here drawn face is selected, and then you want to host that on that new line that you have created. Now once you host a point somewhere on a line, here it's going to have this normalized curve parameter, which is basically going from 0 to 1, 0 being here on the first point, 1 being on the second point, and that's then controlling kind of the position. Oops. The position of this point. So if I drag this point here on the line, if I move it closer to point 3 here, you can see this is now 0.7. If I move it closer to 0.6, this is going to be 0.19. So basically it's going from 0 to 1. So now this should, I think, be somewhere, I think it's 0.65 kinda ish, that gives us kind of close to that shape. But anyways, let's just go with this. And of course, it doesn't have to be perfect here in terms of the proportions, because then when you load it into the model, it's going to follow the proportions of that hexagon here. So anyways, what you want to do next is go with this here, select here, and then connect those. And again, make sure that is reference is selected. Okay. Then you want to select these 2 and connect them. Is reference is selected. Perfect. And now basically we have that one rhomboid here, one here, and one here. And just because of the kind of the proportions of this, it doesn't look exactly like in the image, but that's okay. It's going to be kind of somewhere there when we load it into the project. So anyways, now how do you create the actual openings? So for the openings, we have to kind of create additional framing for a void that's going to be cutting those openings. So you just want to go here to point element, and then you want to place 2 point elements. I'm just going to be showing you in this one corner here. So you just want to place those here, 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 and here. And then you want to make sure that the positioning is set properly, and you can do this, you don't have to. So I just like to make sure to specify. So this is 0.9, this will be 0.1. So actually it's just like following, like, okay, 1 point is at 10% of this and one is at 90, so they basically have the same offset here. Then for this one is 0.9, and then this will be 0.1. So again, we're just making sure it looks all kind of proportional. Okay, so once we have that, we want to select these 2 points and we want to connect them. So spline through points, and make sure to check is reference just to make it that green reference line. The green part is not important, it's the reference line that's important. So anyways, again, here spline through points is reference, okay. And then again, we go and we place points on these lines here, just like that. And then we repeat the process. So this should be 0.9. This one, let's see, should be 0.1. So you're just kind of trying to make sure that it's all kind of rounded. This, again, this isn't really that necessary for this demonstration, but I just like to have it like that. I guess you can call it OCD. So anyways, here I'm just going to select these 2 points now. So the top one and the bottom one, spline through points is reference. So now they're connected, and then this one and this one, spline through points is reference. So sometimes it will give you this warning. That's okay. This is perfectly fine. So we have that, and then even though you can see that these are hosted on the same line, what you want to do is you even want to connect these 2 points. So basically you're going to have 2 overlapping lines, and that's perfectly fine because they have different use. So now we have, as you can see, we have a line here, just like that. And then we want to repeat the same process here. And don't worry, the magic will happen in a moment or so, so I'll show you what this is all about. Apply. Okay, so again, we have now one here. Okay, so why did we do all of that? Well, now because we have this rectangle that's kind of fitting in there perfectly. And we're going to use that rectangle to create a void. So first, let's select the whole entire kind of shape that goes around, like so. Go to create form, extrusion, and then set this to 50 millimeters. Apply. Okay. Then you can just go around, select this thing, the smaller rectangle, go to create form, but select void form, and then go with this one. So it's going to go up like this, but then you also want to move this down. So it's basically, you want to make sure that it's always cutting through that rectangle, or through the, not the rectangle, the hexagon. And this is basically how you get one of these openings. So you can basically create different styles of these. So maybe one will have 1 opening, one will have 3 openings, one will have 2 openings, and then you can use that to kind of create the variation in this facade. So in this case, just because it takes so much time, I'm just going to be showing you on one of these. And then you can just go here to save family, and let's call this the new panel number 2. Okay. So once we have this new panel family number 2, let's load that into the project here. And then once it's loaded into the project, now I can come here, use the tab key to select individual panels here wherever I want, so you can follow whatever kind of logic you want, and then you can select multiple ones. Okay, so I just selected these few panels, and then you can go here, and now we have that new panel 2 option. And when we apply that, as you can see, those panels will have that opening. So that's basically the approach to creating a cool looking building like this. Obviously it would take so much more work, but that's the approach. You can do this without having to rely on things like Dynamo and learning visual programming. So I think it's perhaps a quicker approach if you don't know that. Okay, so that's pretty much it for this video. If you want to get this project file, well, all of these project files, we have 2 families and a project. You can find that on my Patreon page, where I host all of my Revit project files, over 500 files so far, and I'm adding more with each video. So I'm just going to link that up just below this video in the description, and then also up in the cards above. So if you're interested in my Revit project files, that's the place to go. Thank you for watching, guys. Make sure to check out my website, balkanarchitect.com, for more Revit courses. There I have over 120 hours of content, and I'm adding more each week. Make sure to subscribe for more videos, and also I've added a video over there that might interest you as well.